Welcome to Being at Home with George. I'm excited to be here and really excited about once again creating this vision of possibility of being able to say yes to whatever comes up and at the same time generating the hope. And I was reading one of my poems, a samurai poem, and there's a line in that poem that really hit me or resonated with me. And that line is, I make awareness my home. And home is where the heart is. Home is the foundation for which we are able to observe our experience uncritically, especially when the heart is full with compassion and patience and understanding. And so I want to start off by talking about this idea that we are responsible for our happiness. No person, place, or thing can do it for us. It's an inside job. And we make choices. That's why we are responsible. We have awareness, and then we make choices. And we make choices even when we don't make choices. And so how do we embrace suffering? And so I've been experiencing a little bit more suffering than normal this week because I got inundated in the news and the forecast and all the suffering because that's what they like to talk about, what's wrong. And I felt myself being overcome by it and feeling it to the point where I felt powerless to some degree. And so when I remembered that I get to choose, I remembered that I'm focusing on what's wrong and I have this choice. I can choose to focus on what I want versus what I don't want. And so I want to respond to a poem that was written by Neville Goddard in his book, The Power of Awareness. And in there, it talks about there is a great difference between resisting evil and renouncing it. So in this case, evil is the suffering, okay? When you resist evil, you give attention, you continue to make it real. When you renounce evil, you take your attention from it and give your attention to what you want. Now is the time to control your imagination. And so I'll paraphrase this thing, but what I want is love, peace, compassion. I don't really want suffering. So how to embrace suffering and at the same time generate the hope so we can transform suffering. So give beauty for ashes, joy for mourning, praise for the spirit of heaviness. And of course, that's what I was experiencing, the heaviness, that they might be called trees of righteousness, the planting of the Lord that he might be glorified. And so this last paragraph is really the crux of this. You give beauty for ashes when you concentrate your attention on things as you would like them to be rather than things as they are. You give joy for mourning when you maintain a joyous attitude regardless of the unfavorable circumstances. You give praise for the spirit of heaviness when you maintain a confident attitude instead of succumbing to despondency. So for me, that's exactly what I had to do to transform my suffering. And even though it's there, it's my relationship to it so that I'm able to continue to relate to it in positive ways. And so what do? I focus on things as I would like them to be. I maintain a joyous attitude and I stay confident in realizing that these are opportunities. These are what I call swag moments. So when I get to this, all of us can do that no matter how we're feeling or we get confronted with relatives being sick, having strokes. I have a best friend that had a stroke recently and my first cousin, and there's more to that. But how do I embrace that without focusing on what's wrong, but focusing on what I want? And obviously I want them to be in joy, recovery, and to feel the love and to be able to embrace what's happening to them without losing themselves. But I need to focus on how I can help, not on how helpless I feel. So if I don't want to feel powerless and alienated, all I have to do is focus on how I can make awareness my home and focus on what I can do and focusing on what I want. And sometimes it's just that simple. It's just focusing on what we want, but at the same time embracing what we don't want, but then making a choice to do something about it, to not resist evil, but to renunciate it, just to let it go, let the suffering go, to grow.